Hey, welcome back to Sports Uncorked, everyone. Today's guest is a certified legend in the world of college football and beyond, the one and only Matt Stinchcomb. This man wasn't just good at the University of Georgia, he was dominant. A two-time All-American, academic All-American, and winner of the Campbell Trophy, which is the Heisman of scholar athletes. And the NFL clearly took notice because in 1999, he was selected in the first round of the NFL draft, going 18th overall to the Oakland Raiders. He went on to play for both the Raiders and the Buccaneers, cementing a pro history that matched his powerhouse college legacy. His excellence on the field earned him a spot in the College Football Hall of Fame, and these days you can catch him breaking down the game with insight as an analyst on ESPN and the SEC Network. So get comfortable, turn up those headphones, and help me welcome Matt Stinchcomb.
My martini's 31, and no need to test me. On my worst behavior, but at least I'm with my besties.
All right, so Matt, we have to ask you about the newest released college football rankings. Was there anything that surprised you? Because I think as Bama fans, Marissa and I were very disappointed with the placement of Notre Dame. We were very shocked by how far Bama dropped with losing 2-point game it was at home, but a 2-point game to a really good Oklahoma team. So any thoughts from you on, were you kind of shocked by how things shook out as well?
Yes, I was. And the part that I think concerns you the most from a Bama perspective is they're not safe. You're not safe at 10. You're too close. You're right, because you got the automatic qualifiers out there still with the group of 5 and the ACC. And so if you start expanding the representation of these other conferences, it starts to get really crowded really fast. And, number 10 might get squeezed off the island, so to speak. And you're going, man, really? After the season we had, and the part that chaps me more than anything else, this drives me nuts, is that here's Bama goes 4 straight weeks facing ranked teams. Not like we think they're good kind of ranked, because that happens every year where it's like, oh, we've played 7 ranked teams this year. And you're like, none of them are ranked now. So now that we know how good they are or aren't, they aren't even ranked anymore. So we were just wrong at the time you played them. But Bama played ranked teams, good ones, and beat them. And one of them is thought by this committee to be the number 4 team in the country, and you beat them at home, and somehow that's not good enough and or better than Notre Dame, who's got 1 ranked win and will probably is going to finish with 1 ranked win. And you just think, I'm having a really, really hard time. You're punishing Bama for losing to FSU is the long and short of it. And you're going, yeah, it's a bad loss. But it was in week 1. And week 1s are weird. And that's not, they shouldn't have lost to FSU. FSU is not a good team. But week 1s are weird. They just are. You haven't played together. This Alabama team has never played together before. At the beginning of the season, they've never played together before. People be like the defending champion. That doesn't exist. That team's gone. Those teams don't persist. This isn't pro sports. Well, in some ways it's pro sports. In a lot of ways, actually. But you have roster turnover. So those teams are gone. And so your week 1 team, that's the first rattle out of the trap. Blah, blah, blah. Bad, ugly loss. Not so bad or ugly that they should be ranked behind Notre Dame. That's just, you can't get there from here. The logic doesn't hold up.
It's almost like they're looking at the losses, the teams that you lost to, and the quality of the losses more than they're even looking at the quality of the wins. It totally feels that way, right? And
yeah.
That's not a measurement that we should be looking at. Also, the argument about, well, Bama's one-dimensional, so we feel like we can't raise them up a little bit higher because they don't have a run game. That logic also is like, if you win, you win, right?
Yeah,
They don't use that logic with anyone else.
That's not a metric. I don't know of that anywhere where they're going, you're undefeated, but you're undefeated in ways that we don't prefer. So,
right.
We'd like for you to not run back kicks, quit returning interceptions for touchdowns. We don't like that. You don't get to pick. We're either good enough to win or we aren't. And they can't be paying that close of attention to who Notre Dame is losing to, because if so, they would probably have Miami ranked differently.
Right.
So it does. And with those 2 teams alone, those 3 teams, Alabama, Notre Dame, and Miami, it almost points to you're paying closer attention to losses than you are wins. And I don't understand that. that's a backwards way to look at things, I think.
Well, it would explain why they're not using similar logic to apply, 1, 2, and 3. You're 1, 2, and 3 because you haven't played anybody. You've played the scrubs at the bottom of every single conference. There's no kind of adjustment for that either.
Also true. Well,
Yeah.
So playing off our Notre Dame rant, nice people, great fans, all the things. So all the fun disclaimers. This isn't personal to Notre Dame, although I think it is specific to Notre Dame because they do get very unique treatment. But, Texas A&M beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame. And yes, they've played the teams in the SEC that have proven to not be that good, but Notre Dame hadn't beaten anybody that's any good. Ohio State, who have they beaten that's that good?
Literally nobody.
I don't really
Ohio
know.
State has not played
We're cramming.
anybody this whole season. It's infuriating.
It's frustrating for sure. I'm trying to pace myself. I think y'all are too. We've got championship week. We got another week of football. Like, we're not going to find out anything this week, y'all. I mean, we're not. These winners, losers on Saturday, we're not even going to know who's going to play in the SEC championship after this week. We will gain zero clarity after the game Saturday. So that's cool because you get to the final week of the season and now you find out who the SEC championship teams will be, the teams that will contend in that one. That's a lot of fun. I love that. But we don't know enough about this final rankings. But if chalk kind of holds, if that even applies in this scenario, you're kind of going, man, it looks like the way we're going to get to our field is kind of backwards and presumptuous. I mean, I don't know, just based on what we've seen, how is Indiana not considered better than Ohio State?
Right?
You can make a pretty strong case, I think, for A&M and Indiana over Ohio State. And so we're just going to say, eyeball test. Well, why don't we just throw all the metrics out then? Let's not pretend and let's just say eyeball test. Here's how the committee's getting to our rankings is we're just using the old eyeball test. Great. It's all subjective. At least we can jettison the whole fake or whatever, the conversations around the metrics, because it doesn't seem like we pay close attention to them.
Even BYU's in a bad spot too, right? I mean, BYU at 9.
Well, the thing for BYU is, right, they play that Big 12 championship game and they win, they're in.
They're in and we're out.
And that's, you nailed it. So we being Alabama, which I'm sure your listeners already know that, right? So y'all are, so that's not bad. But I think that's the biggest threat is the Big 12 for Alabama, because they're not going to drop Texas Tech from 5 to outside of the field. I don't think. They like Texas Tech a lot. If I hear them talk about that defensive line one more time, it's unbelievable. You shouldn't. What you all want is you want Texas Tech to win the Big 12 badly. That way it cleans it all up. If BYU messes around and wins the Big 12, they're in, and so is Texas Tech. And now we have to start talking about, number 10 just got booted out of the field. That ain't good. You're stuck at, what's the number on the helmet up there? Is it 18? Did y'all claim any over the summer? Some teams did that, just grabbed a couple of championships over the summer.
They're 5 and 6, but they won 9 national championships.
Yeah. It's fantastic. Very impressive stuff.
Great year.
And did it overnight. That's tough to do. I don't know. The Big 12 is everybody's pay close attention to the Big 12. Paying attention to how Oregon finishes. What happens if Michigan somehow beats Ohio State again? What are you going to do with the 2-loss Michigan team? They've got pretty losses. They lost to Oklahoma. That's a pretty loss right now. So, and it seems like the committee likes those pretty losses. So it can get, there's a number of different ways we could get awful crowded.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be messy. So Riss and I were talking about conference champions in general, conference championship games in general. And the Big 12, for instance, it's advantageous to play that game this year. The ACC too, right? The ACC is like a disaster right now with who knows what the heck's going on there, who's going to be in that game. But we know the winner of that can be in, and maybe one other team, we don't know. But for the SEC and the Big 10, they're not going to punish a team. They've come out and said they're not going to punish a team that loses in the conference championship game, right? But if you already kind of know who the players are, like, what is the advantage other than saying we won a conference championship? The allure's taken away a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
I will say that, so if If you're an SEC or a Big Ten team that's ranked in the top 4 right now, you've already got a bye. And so, and we've taken that away, right? It's no longer the top 4 conference champions that get the bye now. It's just top 4 teams, which I like. Except if I'm in the top 4 going into the championship weekend and I lose, and now I'm not in the top 4 of the championship weekend, I would think I still am ranked high enough to host a home playoff game, but I'm playing. So as soon as I fall out of that top 4, and all of a sudden I'm playing football again, and it's like, I'm not sure. So I went and I picked a fight with what's thought to be one of the best teams in the country to win my conference championship. It didn't work out. I had a bye going into the championship game, and now I don't. That seems suboptimal. I don't know how anybody's sitting around going, yeah, that's an okay outcome. We're all right with that. Nobody wants to lose a championship game. But it just, last year, that I didn't like that either. You know, you're getting buys, and some teams are getting buys that shouldn't be getting buys as a conference champion. So we try to fix that, and that's great.
The whole thing is fixed for Ohio State to win over and over and over again. It's getting boring.
I don't think it's fixed, but it does seem to be working out well for
It
those
seems
guys.
to work out really well for a team that is ranked number 1, undefeated, had to play teams like Ohio and Grambling. Again, this goes back to the previous conversation about like losses weigh a lot more than wins. And like, not to talk about our other brethren within the SEC conference, but like Georgia hasn't really played a lot of people either. And like, they've played some good teams, but like their like first or second game was against Marshall. They blew them out of the water and they're like, this is the best team in the SEC. I'm like, okay. But if they had played a better Texas, sorry, we won't go down that road.
I think this will be where we depart in our agreement. I think Ole Miss is pretty good.
Ole Miss is really good.
Texas is a pretty highly ranked team. Tennessee's a ranked team. You know, a 3-point loss to Bama is nothing to turn your nose up at. So if we're talking about good losses, that's a good loss. Well, you know, as we know, it might not be a good enough loss. But Georgia's got some good wins. They've got some ranked wins, and they've got more ranked wins than the team that I think we do agree on. It's like, they really, you know, who have they beaten? And the answer is, you know, Oregon's beaten no one.
Right. I think Oregon's the other one. Correct.
You know, it's just, you're like, they don't have a ranked win right now. And you're thinking, I don't know if I don't like that. We're pretending like they're good. I'm not sure necessarily why. So there's just a lot of, I don't know. Missouri jumps in there, and they weren't ranked, I think. They jump in there. Illinois is not ranked, and now they are. And that certainly helps the folks in the Big Ten. Mizzou's going to help teams like, it actually helps Alabama. Everything that the committee did from a ranking standpoint actually helped Alabama's record. It actually made Alabama's win-loss look even better. The FSU is unfixable. That one we have to set aside. But everything they did with all the other teams, you're like, well, you know, you put Missouri back in there, that helps Alabama. It looks really, really good for these guys, except they're ranked behind teams that have the same win-loss record and a much less compelling resume. Make the math make sense. They just can't. It's new math is what it is. I don't know if you'll ever dealt with that, but there's different ways to do math now. And the new math is stupid because the old math worked just fine. And they're using some kind of weird new math now, I think.
I agree. And my kids are doing new math, and I want to die.
Math.
Like a whole piece of paper to do one problem.
Why?
I don't get
it's
it.
It's so dumb. What are we doing? First, make an estimate first. You're like, why? Just memorize it. Just do the problem. Don't estimate. Just do it. You still got to do it.
5 plus 3 is 8. We don't need to write it down in a document and draw a picture.
Yeah. Hey, memorize some stuff.
Right.
We did. It's not that bad. Give it a shot.
Yeah.
Times tables. Anyway, this is why y'all drink wine on this podcast, right? Because it's just, when the rankings come out, how many bottles do y'all go through? It's one bottle before it happens.
We've been pretty in agreement with the rankings up until this week when it started to not make sense.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like this week there was like a diversion in schools of thought.
If y'all were Miami fans, y'all would be getting hammered as soon as they started ranking anybody, y'all would have been like, forget it. There's not enough wine in Charlotte or to stay ahead of this stuff. But yeah, it's not getting better. It's getting worse.
We don't like Carson back, so we kind of like to see them suffer.
A little bit.
That might be another place, maybe.
We had a swipe right, swipe left episode earlier in the season, and we were like hard swiping left on Carson Beck. Hard,
Yeah, when
like
we played
pass,
transfer
pass. Like
portal
this is not
Tinder,
going
I
to work
mean,
out.
we knew it was not going to work out. We thought that he was going to do just well enough to create enough buzz around Miami, which he did, but he failed, like exactly what we thought was going to happen, unfortunately. It is what it
Transfer
is.
portal tender is hysterical.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic, what a great idea. That's a great
Fun.
idea.
And I
And
think
that's
we
kind of
were
what it's
right.
like.
We were
Yeah.
right on all of them.
Oh, really? Y'all
We
nailed
had
it, huh?
we had
Yeah.
Nico in there. That
Huh?
was we knew that was going to be a thumb. He had
Yeah.
one good game, right? He had great game. Get the caused
Penn
James
State.
Franklin to get
Mhm.
fired.
Yep.
He's already got a new job. He didn't. I mean, he was out of a
Are we
job.
proud? I'm proud of James Franklin.
Me too.
Yeah. I mean, hey, it's just changing addresses. He's got to turn over his closet a little bit. That's
Yeah.
about it, really. I mean, it's just moved a little bit further south. It's not so bad. The season didn't even end. He's already got a new job. I think that's a first.
Oh, yeah,
I'm not
for
sure that
sure.
that's happened.
Considering how many coaches are still sitting on the bench waiting for their next call up, like that's incredibly fast for someone to be replaced already. I mean, we're still trying to figure out who's going to fill gaps at Florida. We're still trying to figure out who's going to fill. I mean, the coaching carousel, this, like, I will say early, because usually we don't have these kind of Black Sunday moments until after or right before a conference game. So, like, it's absolutely wild to see like who is going to go where. And I think right now everyone is on the Lane train watch. Like, where is Lane Kiffin going to go? There's, I mean, we want to talk about like transfer portal Tinder. Rach showed me a picture earlier today. We're playing The Bachelor with Lane Kiffin. Like, where is he going to go? All of these teams want him. Who's he going to give a rose to? It's interesting to watch that because he is being courted. And if we had any idea of how other schools and athletic directors slid into the DMs of a hot coach right now, I'd pay a lot of money to see what Lane Kiffin's inbox looks like right now. I really would. I bet it's absolutely insane.
It's pretty active. How many different, maybe it has to go like, he's got to be, what is it, a polygamist, and he'll just maybe he can coach at 3 or 4 different places all at once. He's got a family over here in Louisiana, and he's got a family over there in Florida.
Yeah.
Maybe a family that he's cranking up in Alabama. I mean, it's just he's a busy guy. And he's going to have to delegate even more.
Yeah. Yeah. His ego could take that on, right?
Maybe. I was running with the Bachelor Rose thing where it's like, you hand out 3 or 4 roses and you hope one doesn't bump into the other at the grocery store.
That's hilarious.
We're tracking the planes though, right? I mean, that's always the fun part of the season when everyone's like scoping out Gainesville Regional Airport
I
and
love how
Baton Rouge
everyone is an
Regional
air traffic
Airport.
controller right now. It's crazy. They're like, well, the Florida
They're not
PJ
flying the
was.
sky.
It's just funny. Everyone knows where all the private jets are at. It's great.
We would have never had to, eliminate all those flights a couple of weeks ago had we known all these air traffic control folks were just on the side, hobbyists. What do you do in your free time? I control a little air traffic. They could have just stepped in for the folks that were like, look, I'm tired of working for free. You know what? I do this for fun anyway. I'll come in, land a couple of L1011s or DC9s and, then head on back to the house. What'd you do after work today? I did a little air traffic controlling. Nice. We could have kept the economy going. Shutdown would still be going on right now. Hey, bunch of closet air traffic controllers.
So, Matt, who are coaches that are not getting the press about some of these openings that should? Like, I've been yelling Brent Key from the top of my lungs for months now. Like, why are people not talking about him? Maybe behind the scenes they are, but
I think I've heard his name mentioned for around in and around the Auburn job because he's an Alabama guy, state of Alabama guy. Coached at Alabama, played at Tech. That's another one that's kind of tricky. There's a little Bill Curry history there where you're like, in that instance, Curry leaves Tech and heads to Alabama, doesn't go well, finishes at Kentucky. So to leave the alma mater is kind of tricky, but we've heard his name around that one some, and that makes sense. The he's done an amazing job. He really has. I don't know, when's Tech going to get back up on their skis? And, this Saturday is not super compelling matchup for Georgia, but that Georgia Tech game is, especially based on what we saw a year ago. So he's a name. You look at the coordinators and, I'm not wishing this because for him personally, I'd wish it. It would make total sense. I don't know, like Mike Bobo, I don't know why he's not getting any attention despite the job that he's done and is doing. But there's others. Tim Beck, the offensive coordinator at Vanderbilt. And you think, how is that name not getting kicked around? The one that I think maybe quietly is Pat Fitzgerald, the old head coach at Northwestern who got railroaded. And I think he can't speak about this publicly, but it looks as if he's been completely exonerated from all the stuff that he was accused of presiding over or allowing to go on in his program. The guy's a coach. He's a heck of a coach. And he put together some great teams. He did it at a place where it's hard to win. I'm surprised we don't hear that name more, actually. And there are other names where I don't think it gets talked about even more, but I'm kind of surprised, like Ed Ogeron for an Arkansas job, which might be a great fit.
Right.
But it's kind of weird one, right? Where you're like, wow, I didn't see that one. I didn't see that one coming. But maybe that makes good sense. And there's others that, because their contracts, the Rhett Lashleys of this world where SMU snuck in there and, tied him up and kind of took him out of that whole rotation. So there's a lot of names. There's plenty more that I could trot out. We were going, I'm surprised. I'm really surprised that that's not a name that's getting tossed out. It's kind of the usual suspects. And there's not enough to go around. So inevitably, one of those names is going to bubble up. And like Marissa was saying, like James Franklin, makes total sense. I get the Virginia Tech hiring him, but boy, it seemed like maybe they're worried he was going to get gobbled up elsewhere. Maybe they said, look, we're going to take this offer off the table. You can go with us or we're moving on. But there's other really good coaches. There's really, really good coaches out there that we don't know about that I'm not paying attention to either. But they might not excite the fan base. That's lesser to, they might not excite the investor base. And that is really where the game is now, which is, can you get people to contribute to your NIL? And that's a big part of it right now.
Seems like people feel like when they contribute to the NIL, then they get to have a say in who the coach is and how quickly the program turns on a coach. I think that's the disappointing trend that has bubbled up is if you're not in the playoff, we can't have you as a coach. And how many programs feel that way? Which is why we've seen this coaching carousel so early this year. But to your point, like who's going to fill all these jobs and who's going to be that top level talent? I mean, you're going to replace one with a like other who's going to start over and have to rebuild a program. It's going to be a couple more years of investment. I mean, I thought Florida made a bit of a mistake. I feel like if they didn't have the hardest schedule in the country for like a couple of years in a row, they were competitive in games. Lagway is a he's young. He still needs some development. I thought that was probably one that I don't know who you're going to get in there that's going to be before that transfer portal window closes in January that can take advantage of that without a complete roster being demolished. And that's another year and a half, 2 years until you get your players in. So like the expectations around coaches and with NIL I think it's really hard. It's really hard to want to be coach now.
You're right. Well, the thing is, I can't remember who said this. Some AD was like, hey, look, you fire somebody, you got to hire somebody. And you think that's tricky. It's one thing to be like, all right, this guy isn't it. Okay. Who is? Because you got to have somebody. Don't be a problem spotter, be a problem solver. We got plenty of spotters out there. There's not many folks out there that can fix stuff. So I need somebody to come in here and be like, all right, so step one, identify the problem. I think the problem is you. Okay. So we're going to eliminate you. Who are we going to use to fix it? This isn't something where it'd be like, so we just won't have a head coach. That's not a thing. This isn't something that you can just not replace. Who you got? And is that going to does it make sense, like you're saying, to just hit the hard reset button and start this sucker over? The expanded playoffs made it tougher. It's not easier. A lot was said about it's more accessible and all that other. It is. It's still only 12 teams. And if you're not one of those 12, then it amplifies the expectations, especially in the Southeastern Conference, but true of other conferences too, where they're going, wait a minute, we can't even be one of the 12. Before you had to thread the needle and you had to be top 2. And then it was, all right, you got to be top 4. That isn't easy either. But now it's, God, we've tripled the field size and we still can't get there. Get this guy out of here. Bring somebody else in. Who you got? The guy, oh, he just got hired. Okay. What about this? No, they just extended him. So now it's who are you going to bring in? And
Yeah.
who's he going to be able to bring in with him? Because he ain't coaching everybody. It's as much the staff as it is anybody else. It's not ideal. Last year, SEC had no coaching turnover, head coaching turnover. And then you have this year where, and it's obviously not just in the SEC, it's a lot of places where programs are going, give me somebody else. And you're going, okay, great. Who is that somebody going to be? And they're having a hard time filling that blank.
And then when they hire this coach, what is the buyout structure going to be? Because, I mean, i.e. LSU, they act like they
Yeah.
fired him and then we're like, oh, we can't afford to fire him. Wait,
Yeah.
what?
Whoops.
We
Yeah,
didn't mean to do
fire you.
that.
Yeah.
We,
You're
we,
unfired.
the check bounced.
Yeah.
So what I feel like these coaches that are being hired are now going to have to structure their deals to have to an understanding of who they answer to. Do we answer to the boosters? Do we answer to the collective? Do we answer to the AD? Do we answer to the fans? Who has control of the program? Do I have control of the program? Do I not have control of the program? Because I think it's really hard to be a coach if you don't have full control and full access to all of the means in order to make the program successful too. And if you're only given 2 years to turn something around before the expectation is that you're in the playoffs.
Yeah. Oh, it's uh, right now, what it used to be was you got to have alignment. You got to have a president that wants to win or a board or whoever they are, a chancellor. The supreme pontiff of your school has to want to win football games. If they don't, then it's going to be very, very difficult. Then it was, well, okay, you got to have that. And, you need to be in a recruiting area where you can get talent. And now, very much, not only is it emergent, but maybe even the dominant factor is, do you have an investor base, which could be separate and apart, although included in a fan base that will fund what it takes to field a competitive team or a championship caliber team. And if you don't, then it's hard. That's the table ante has gone way up. It's not, oh, do you have an indoor practice facility or alternative uniforms or whatever, a Chick-fil-A near your campus? It's, do you have enough money to pay me to want to come to school here? And not just come to school here, but stay here. That's the other
Retain.
part. It's, get them to, it's recruiting and retention. It's almost like a lot of other businesses where it's like, it costs money to get people and it costs more money to keep people. So that's what's going on right now. It's kind of like they're employees.
And employees sign contracts a lot of times. So I
Yes,
can't
they do.
believe that we are not in a place where if we sign you to a $4 million deal over 4 years, that you're not locked into a contract. That I mean, right now you can pick up and leave and go somewhere else.
Yep.
That's got to be
Well,
kind of
and
the duration of this.
there's some clauses in some of these NIL deals where it's like, look, we can't make you stay, but we can. That also doesn't mean we have to pay you if you leave, type stuff. And it's with the revenue sharing, so the institution's more directly involved, even though I think tacitly they've been pretty directly involved anyway. But now it's actual. Hey, this is how much we pay our guys here. Whatever the cap is, like 21 some odd million. Doesn't have to be for football, but that also does not follow you where you leave. So there's some more elements now than there were a season ago, where it's literally like, yeah, I feel like leaving. And also, you owe me, because you can't have it contractually say it's pay for play, even though we all know that this is pay for play. So I guess in some ways it's improved, but not enough to where if you go to a school as these new head coaches or a head coach that's looking at opportunities, you're not going to go to a school that's not capable of funding NIL. They're not going to do that. But that's crazy town.
Yeah.
When you got
Yeah.
guys, and we saw a little bit last year where players would bubble wrap themselves and say, you know what, all right, season's done and I got to make sure I don't get injured. So I'm going to start, Bear Alexander, who's transferred twice now, went from Georgia to USC, then bubble wrapped himself at USC and went to Oregon. And you're just going, that's gross. That's just gross, man. The fact that that's even an opportunity is just gross. And you think, I don't know. And I've got massive misgivings with that kind of mindset. I'm going to quit on y'all. I got to do what's quote unquote best for me. And then the fact that they keep finding places to go, that is really frustrating.
Beamer's had some statements this week too, right? Some pretty like out there. We'll be competing in the playoffs next year. I'm like, okay,
Saw that.
buddy. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
I like
okay.
it.
Okay.
Hey,
I like
sounds
the
good.
tenacity. Yeah, well, we're ready for you.
They were right there on the cusp last year. They got to be sitting there going, man,
What
missed
happened?
opportunity. Yeah. They
But if
caught
your
fire
guy
too late. I mean, we've got a head coach. We're talking about with Coach Kiffin, where look, if it was cut and dried, then it's literally you squash all of this and say, look, I'm flattered. These other programs are interested in me. That speaks well of our program that they're interested in me. I'm not going anywhere. I'm done. And you just shut it down. You shut it down right then and there. He's opted to not do that. Now, some are saying maybe what's happening is he's looking at these other programs so that it looks even better when he comes back to Ole Miss. Okay, I see that. There's a lot of pain and angst in the interim, but if you can manage your locker room, okay, I get that. That's actually a pretty slick play and looks really good on the back end, if in fact that's what you're doing, and you can manage your locker room and what it is that they're hearing, seeing, and believing. But you do introduce that element where it's like, hang on a second, now where's your head? We're making a run. We're by this week. We play the Egg Bowl, and then we're looking at, for sure a playoff game, likely hosting a playoff game. And are you evaluating other options? That's your quarterbacks, head coaches. We've seen this a time or two. It's not good. It's certainly not good for that team's performance. That's for sure.
Well, and your players are starting to pick up the phone and listen to offers and all of
Yeah.
that too. The longer that
Yeah.
you want to leave that in limbo, that's your controlling the locker room piece
Yeah.
too. Right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Which is
So,
hard. It's
what are your thoughts on this private equity deal in the Big Ten?
I'm not overly familiar with particulars of this thing. I'm not a huge fan of third parties in general. What I don't understand is how do they realize the return? So I'm investing in it. Do I participate in the revenues generated at the athletic department level or at the conference level? I don't know. But what is like the revenue mechanism in that deal that says I invest $100 with you and I'm going to get $120 back. And here's how. What is this? This is a not-for-profit enterprise. I'm missing something there.
Me
I'm sure
too.
there's ways to get there. I'm sure. I just don't know I don't know which one that they're taking, and I don't know how they're going to accomplish it. So that's the part that's maybe the most obscure to me, is less that there's a third party that wants to come in and say, hey, look, I want to help you out. That's what's happening now, right? Other than the ability to pick up the phone and talk to coach in the middle of practice, and he's going to take my call because I bought his defensive line for him. But I mean, we're going to call that a non-monetary compensation. I would have to think that a private equity fund is sitting there going, no, we're going to need some actual monetary, return on this investment. How's that realized? And what is the source of those revenues? And I don't know enough about that deal to get there. So that's the part that's the most curious, unless they're just, altruistic and they're like, we just love the Big Ten so much, all of them. And so everybody that wants to participate, you can just dip into this honey pot and spin it however you like, and we're going to sit back and watch. It's going to be so much fun. I'm disinclined to think that that's where this is coming from.
Same. I've worked with private equity on the other side, my other paying
Yeah.
job, Matt, and that hasn't been they're not throwing money around for fun.
No.
Yeah.
In fact, very much the opposite. They seem very, very much intent on generating more money and are quite good at it. Good for them. I
And
just don't know how
Michigan,
this deal does that.
something about it, even because Michigan's come out this week and said, like, if there's a private equity deal going in the Big Ten, like, we don't want to be part of the Big Ten anymore. So
Yeah, I've heard.
something doesn't smell good. It kind of seems like they're going to invest this money and then they're going to pull a big share away from the school to return it to themselves and not continue to invest in players. And that might be what Michigan's like. We already have a good revenue situation. We already have a great brand. We don't really need this. We're good on our own. Like, we have good alumni and good boosters that are already contributing. And we see the success that Notre Dame's had by not being in a conference too. Maybe that's the route we want to go, because then we keep 100% of it for ourselves.
Okay. I
I
like that
don't
a
know.
lot more.
That's what the small toe dip that I've had because I think the Big
Yeah.
Ten has destroyed the lower mid to lower level of their conference by expanding to 18 teams. They did it too fast, and it has destroyed the integrity of the Big Ten Conference for a lot of reasons. And we're seeing that with Ohio State right now, having played all of these conference games, and none of them are against teams that we feel like are legitimate in any way, shape, or form.
Well, don't they play Rutgers this week? So, stop traffic. Let's hold the phone and let's figure out just how good they're going to be. It's, I say that as the SEC just traipses down the pastry aisle. But I do think that the Big Ten, it's funny, the SEC gets kind of a bad rap, but the Big Ten started all this business. Now, I think we probably end up here anyway with expansion and all that other. So who started it first is less material. But they did start this. I mean, they expanded, and it's had quite the domino effect for a long, long time, for better or for worse. And I do think that it's a fair point you make, where you go and you grab these other teams. And I wonder how long before you grab a couple of more teams from a brand standpoint, inclusive of our friends at Notre Dame, and you kind of got yourself all the teams you need. I mean, you'd go and get a couple from the ACC, although those brand names aren't performing very well right now. But you wouldn't have to grab that many to have a quote unquote super conference. I'm definitely not advocating that. But given some of the stuff that's happened, you're like, I don't know, where it's just not a big leap to get there. All it takes is a couple of folks, maybe they have a couple of bottles of wine. And next thing you know, it's like, you know what, let's do this. Let's blow college football completely up. We'll just create a super conference.
If the Pac-12 could have just figured something out, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Well,
Kidding. You
you
had to go
guys,
hire the tennis guy or whatever it was that he did. You're going, he's going to do it. This guy's going to fit. It didn't
yeah.
go so great. It
No,
definitely did not go well.
and you got
And
UCLA traveling to UConn to play games, which is like so ridiculous for football, crazy, but it's all of the other sports that I feel bad for a student athlete. I wouldn't go to UCLA for that reason.
I can't imagine, the sports that many of which are playing in midweek games,
Yeah.
the impact on their academics has to be massive. And there is academics involved still. Somewhere off in the corner is academics at these schools, all of them, where you're like, man, transfer portal. When's the last time you heard or had any conversation about or commentary about someone's academic eligibility as they entered or left the transfer portal? Credits used to not just move willy-nilly from one institution to the next, where they just, oh yeah, we'll accept all of them. There were some times where you're like, gosh, how in the world would you not accept, whatever, you transfer from Virginia. It's a pretty good little school. Yeah, we don't accept those credits. So you got to go to school here another semester and a half. That doesn't happen anymore. It's like, nope, they're fine. Completely eligible. Show up. Thank you. And, next thing you know, they're on the practice field for spring practice. And you think, gosh, I thought there was an academic thing here.
They also play 7 years now. So
I hate that. That's the part that's the worst.
For 7 years.
Yeah. Of all the stuff that we've screwed up, if we let this whole, and it's a SEC kid that's suing, as I understand, to get 5 years. So it used to be 5 years of practice, 4 on the field. We want 5 years of practice, 5 on the field. And, the premise on some level is eligibility limits, what informs that. And a big part of it, practically speaking, if you're a high school athlete, when do you ever get in the game? There's never room at the end if there's nothing to compel the people that are already there to get out. Eventually, you got to grow up, go pro, like real pro, not college pro, but pro, and go be an adult somewhere. But we're going to keep on. And we've got that now. We've got kids that have been in college for 7 years.
Yeah, they're like 30 years old.
Yeah.
You got an 18-year-old and a 30-year-old on the same team. Like there's something wrong with that. That's like a child and a man that are playing against each other. That's not right.
For sure. Yep.
It's not right.
The whole men among boys, literally.
Yeah.
Yep. That's a man and that's a boy. He's 18. Okay. Adult only from a technical standpoint. This other dude's 24 years old. It's just, I got a real problem with this. It does not make sense to me.
Marissa and I have ranted about this a lot of times.
Well, I don't blame you. And it's righteous indignation. it makes total sense to be upset with that. That's
We
for sure.
said our daughters, we don't have daughters, but our daughters would not be able to go to school where there are 30-year-old people on the football team.
Good
It's
point.
not right.
Yeah, it isn't right. It's messed up. It's just the whole thing is just a bad look. Move on. You've been here for 5 years. Go do something else, man. You can't stay here
Sell
anymore.
insurance, right?
Sell insurance.
Sell
Not so bad.
insurance.
We know.
Pretty good
Yeah.
gig, right? Pretty good gig.
Actually, we don't want even more competition. Just sell something else. You'll sell home security systems or something.
So, Matt, I got to ask you, we've talked a lot about the game of football, but do you watch games differently now in your seat as kind of an analyst? Like, what do you pick up on? What do you look for? I'm sure the game as a fan is different than your seat at ESPN.
I do, and I sometimes wish that I didn't, but I do. So just from a production standpoint, and so you'll think, you're looking in there and you're going, maybe I wouldn't have put the graphic up right then, or why are we talking about this here, or whatever. Stupid stuff that folks at home probably don't know or care about because they're just like, just snap the ball. They'd probably be happy if we would just shut up, just stop talking, man, and let me watch the game. But I do, and I watch it a little bit. I think I do watch it differently from, you don't just watch the ball or just watch one position or something. And probably, I think I watch it as if what would I be thinking right here if I were calling this game? And so I think that's different. It's like, what is the through line for this game? What is the thread, the common theme, the story or the preconceived notion that you had at the beginning, and has it held up and that sort of thing? Whereas I don't think anybody's doing that at home. They're just like, oh, that play sucked, or oh, that was an amazing whatever, or I would have blitzed right there, whatever. So I do think it's probably a little bit different. I'll also say that, we're not splitting atoms doing this stuff either, right? So this isn't, this is not, there's nothing overly scientific about what we're doing. But I think you do watch the game. You watch it differently for sure. Just, I think because of that, you've got an additional perspective, let's say.
So your prep time, like how much time do you spend a week doing your prep work for Saturday?
It depends on if it's a team that I've seen a lot or that I'm familiar with, or that, because what you'll see a lot of times, like, especially because I'm doing just SEC teams. So if you're doing a team that you saw earlier where you were doing another team's game, but they had played the team that you're now doing, inevitably, as you're watching one team, you're paying attention a little bit to the other one, whether you wanted to or not. And so you're noticing, so that cuts into the time. But if it's a team that you just haven't seen all year, then, that's an additional lift for sure. And you're watching more of their games and reading up on maybe how they may have gotten there. When you do the game also matters, because the early season games, nobody knows much. So it's a lot of speculation. It's a lot of new faces because of the transfer portal. And then you get in the back end of the season. The toughest ones are if you get to the second half of the season and it's a team that you just haven't seen. And sometimes that does work out. And you're like, oh my gosh, there's a lot that's happened. How did we get here? And this is a team that I've not paid close attention to. I try to watch as many games as I can each weekend anyway, but you're you don't watch it nearly as intently as you do when you're going to be covering that team. And so the worst is like week 8, 9, 10, and you're going, I had seen this team all year. Great. I mean, I've watched them some on TV, but I haven't watched the end zone and the all 22 kind of coaches copy stuff and really kind of figured out what makes them go or not go, as it were. So that's different. But this isn't, again, I was like, I hear it a lot. We're not going blind doing this stuff. I mean, it's still just football. You're either going to run it or you're going to throw it. No, it's either they're going to tackle them or they're not. They're going to blitz or play coverage. There's only so many things that can happen on a snap. So it's not like you got to go study for the bar.
And people are going to listen for what they want to hear and be upset if they don't hear what they want to hear too, right? I mean,
yeah,
I think
yes.
fans we're all that way. Don't say anything that's going to make me mad.
Yeah, that's right. And if I agree, first of all, it's humorous to me that like we have zero bearing on the game. You couldn't have less of an influence. The fans in attendance, they have way more. The guy at the concession stand, way more influence on the outcome of the game than we do talking about it on television. However, you get treated as if you have some kind of way to impact it. You don't. But if it's If you agree with a call that goes against somebody's team, you hate their team.
Yeah.
And they're convinced of it. And they're right. And you grew up hating fill in the blank state because you thought that was targeting. Are you out of your mind? It's like, yeah, well, I
Idiots.
woke
You're
up this
such an
morning thinking, I
idiot.
hope there's a targeting call. Yeah. Yeah. I got to tell you, I draw a breath every day so that I can hate this team just a little bit more. Now, who is it again? What's the team again? I mean, but that's part of the gig.
So in the SEC this year, who has surprised you and who has disappointed you?
Well, I could say a lot of teams on the surprise side. I was not on the Vanderbilt train early. Completely, I thought, you know what? Last year was a sweet story. And they've got some good players. I think they snuck up on some folks, and I don't know that they can replicate that. Boy, was I wrong there because they're real. They are a good team. They do have staying power, and it's a fun team to watch. They've got good players. This isn't fluky, and this isn't an ambush. So I whiffed on that one big time. They surprised me. I mean, I could rattle off quite a few. LSU surprised me. I didn't think Clemson was like a lock for the national championship. A lot of folks were talking that. I did think that they were a better team than they've shown to be so far. And you know what? They've shown some improvement in some games, and it might just be, it definitely is going to be too little too late. But early on in the season after that opener, I thought, wow, man, LSU, they might be for real. This might be their year. So I got very excited about them. We saw A&M early. I thought they looked like the real deal, and that was one of those. If you say it about enough teams, you're going to be right. So,
Right.
there for a little while, I was like, LSU, this is their year. And then it was Tennessee, look out for them. They're going to get healthy and all the things, and then they didn't. They're not an awful team by any stretch, and it'll be fun to see them in the finale versus Vandy.
Agree.
But they've disappointed. I went from not thinking they would be much to thinking, wow, they're really good, to my expectations were probably not well-founded, and so I got excited. But teams have gotten better. Kentucky has gotten so much better. We had them in the very first game of the season. I thought, boy, this is going to be one more long year, and it was for several weeks. And then they started playing better ball, and this is a fun game. What is Kentucky going to do versus Vanderbilt this week? They are a much more confident offense. There's just a lot of things there where you're like, wow. So that could be a surprise that I didn't think I'd be surprised by. I thought they wouldn't be a very good team this year. And then I saw them in week 1, and I thought, boy, I was right. And then the past 3 weeks, 3 straight wins where it's like, man, they're proving me wrong, which is great. It'd be great if the more competitive the games are and the better the teams are in this conference, the more fun it is. Nobody's pulling for anybody to be bad. And my whole thing is I just want a good game. I'm pulling hard for a good game, and that's it. I'm not pulling for one team or the other. I just want it to be competitive. And down the stretch, this last couple of weeks, especially the last week, we got some great games coming up.
I agree. This rivalry weekend, I think, it's like my national holiday. Sit on the couch. We have like a cooler in the living room, stocked with ice, so many snacks, food. I mean, it's kind of sad. That's what it is. It's really
You
kind
just
of
don't want to
sad.
leave? Do you wear adult diapers? Do y'all just say, look, yeah, I'm not going to leave him. I don't care. Hey,
10
choice.
steps is too much. I can't walk to the kitchen. I just want it here.
Way over there. Yeah.
It's like a tradition.
I'm bringing the kitchen to
New
me.
Year's Day. We have the cooler out.
That's great. Hey.
It's redneck fun, right? I mean, I might not live in the South anymore, but I brought some things with me.
Man, some of this stuff you just can't wash off. We're going to take it everywhere with us. This is the hitchhiker.
All right.
Coolers. That's great.
Feel free to use that one. It's really sad.
I think I will. Yeah. I can't be getting up off the couch and walking all the way over
don't
there.
inconvenience me with that.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, thank you. I took an hour of your time, so I really appreciate it. Thank you for your insight. This is super fun. Love seeing you on all of the things on Saturdays. Hopefully we can have you back sometime. That'd be awesome.
That'd be a lot of fun. Yeah. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for watching.
We'll see everyone next week. Bye.